We have a domestic terrorist running for president. I'm Jessica Denson, and this is Lights On. This is now the second day that vile lies about Haitian immigrants coming from two men running to be president of the United States have forced the city of Springfield, Ohio, to evacuate public buildings and close schools. Bomb threats are terrorizing the city because Donald Trump and J.D. Vance decided to amplify a false and twisted rumor that Haitians were eating people's pets. From the debate stage on Tuesday to just today, they are doubling down on those lies that are explicitly Nazi rhetoric. I will explain. And here is a story that you have not heard in the news. Firsthand experience of mine. 8 years ago, Haitian immigrants may have been the very ones to put Donald Trump over the edge in the state of Florida. I was there in the room, very intimate setting, when he courted their vote. And I'm going to read to you directly out of my upcoming book, which I'm doing this because I'm just kind of taking an aside here. I had wanted very much, and I still hope to possibly publish my book before the election, but I have had personal circumstances that have made that very, very hard. And I want these alerts to go out there before the election. I don't want to hold these things back. So you guys are going to get a very special insight into my yet unpublished book about my experience with Donald Trump and Haitians in 2016. I'm going to read directly from it. But those Haitian immigrants, they put their faith in him. And today he is literally trying to get them killed. If anyone is on the frickin' fence about supporting this guy, maybe, just maybe, you could take a lesson from the Haitians who voted for him in 2016. And is it a coincidence that this is all happening on the same week that we commemorate the worst terror attack on US soil? I mean, forgive me if I'm not particularly shocked by the revelations that he's been escorting around this Laura Loomer figure, okay, a 9/11 truther on his plane. Yes, I know she's a hate monger, a racist, a conspiracy theorist, dangerous person to have being amplified by a presidential candidate. But for God's sakes, so is Donald Trump all of those things. And he's the candidate. I mean, I feel like we're not seeing the forest for the trees when we are alarmed by a story about Laura Loomer and not just alarmed by the fact that Donald Trump is the presidential candidate. This week, one person had some commentary that I thought was really on point. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, he was on CNN yesterday talking about how this whole story about Haitians eating pets is a very deliberate tactic and playbook from Donald Trump to distract from his abysmal policies and the prospect of something like Project 2025. And, you know, I agree. And I remember during the Trump administration how daily, we would have one scandal, outrageous 5-alarm fire after another to distract from the previous 5-alarm fire. And that's how nothing could get traction, because everything, it was just a constant changing of the news cycle. And Mayor Pete is 100% right. This is a tactic that Donald Trump uses to distract. But I actually think that what's going on here, and the domestic terrorists, the stochastic terrorists that these men are, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, is kind of one and the same story this week with what's going on with these lies about Haitian immigrants. Yes, it is an insane conspiracy theory, but it also points directly to the threat that Donald Trump's policies pose to us. He is a domestic terrorist on all fronts. Let's just go through a few examples. Yes, he stokes incidents of stochastic terrorism like these bomb threats that we are seeing today in Springfield, Ohio. We all know this is far from the first time that Donald Trump has stoked terrorism in this country. There were mass shootings during his presidency that were incited by his hateful and xenophobic rhetoric about Mexican immigrants in El Paso, Texas, for one. That is one example. He also is a terrorist when it comes to policy. He would terrorize women who would like to start a family on their own terms without dying outside of a doctor's office, who's afraid to go to jail for treating them. He would terrorize people like me who want to criticize their leaders freely in a free country, who want to change their political affiliation and have an awakening about who they once supported and want to have allegiance to a country and not allegiance to a man. He would terrorize citizens by using the National Guard and our military. He would try to empower our own military to turn against its own in this country. He would terrorize cities by emboldening police departments to become violent towards their own citizens. Just like he exposed today in California, talking about who he calls Governor Newsom. Again, more Nazi-like rhetoric. He would terrorize a state like California by denying aid for wildfires to a governor who is not willing to do his political bidding. So, my friends, today it is Haitian immigrants that Donald Trump is terrorizing. But like that saying goes, they came for this group, they came for that group, they came for XYZ, it wasn't me, and then they came for me. So today it's Haitian immigrants, tomorrow it will be you. Why don't today we recognize what we're facing, fight back, not take it, not allow this any kind of narrative to go out other than the truth of what we are dealing with, which is a autocrat wannabe domestic terrorist running for president in our country. And he is desperate. He is desperate because he is losing bad. He obviously got clobbered this week. He had a total meltdown. And I know we use kind of these headlines a lot, but this week was truly an epic meltdown of Donald Trump. So he's going to get more dangerous and more desperate, and his enablers and sycophants are going to be trying to help him from now until November 5th. We have our work cut out for us. I defeated him for one. We can do this. I have a great show for you today. I know that was kind of a heavy open, but we have some really light moments too, a lot of humor. I'm just really, I'm really sick and tired of any kind of coverage of this man that does not portray him as exactly what he is. And so I want to keep laser focused on that every single time I talk to you. So we started off today talking about J.D. Vance and Donald Trump continuing this rhetoric. I mean, what does J.D. Vance tweet out today? He says, in Springfield, Ohio, there's been a massive rise in communicable diseases, rent prices, car insurance rates, and crime. This is what happens when you drop 20,000 people into a small community. And then he says, this is the stochastic terrorism right here. Don't let biased media shame you into not discussing this slow-moving humanitarian crisis in a small Ohio town. We should talk about it every day. By the way, he couldn't spell the word should properly in that tweet. It actually says shouldle. But on a serious note, I want to read from you from the Holocaust Museum. This is the definition of Nazi propaganda. Now, you heard what I just read to you. J.D. Vance trying to fearmonger people into talking about communicable diseases, et cetera, that are being brought by the Haitian immigrants. This is from the Holocaust Museum. Nazi propaganda often portrayed people persecuted by the regime as vermin, parasites, or diseases. Nazi ideology focused on the idea that Germany's racial purity was under attack from the blood of weaker peoples. And Nazi propaganda often depicted Jews, political opponents, and others as parasites that threatened the overall health of the German racial community. During the years of the Nazi regime, German doctors argued that Jews spread disease. Reflecting common themes in Nazi propaganda, these medical professionals repeatedly pushed the false claim that Jews were responsible for outbreaks of typhus, a deadly contagious disease spread by lice. Okay, so this is straight straight out of the Nazi playbook. I mean, I wasn't even planning on mentioning this, but the fact that these people tried to portray themselves as aligning with Israel or trying to be friends of the Jewish people. And Donald Trump went on that debate stage and said Kamala Harris hates Israel, when you literally have him running a campaign based on Nazi rhetoric and following the Nazi playbook. For God's sakes, let's all wake up and see what's right in front of us. So I just wanted to bring us back to this beautiful moment. I'm going to talk about the debate later in the show today and kind of my take on it immediately, which is not probably the popular take that a lot of people had, but there's a point that I have to it, and I think you'll really appreciate it. But I want to start off with that moment that brilliantly, Kamala Harris got under Donald Trump's skin. Some people said this was the moment of death for Donald Trump in the debate, got under his skin and got him to blurt out what was just insanity. And I got to tell you, when I first watched the debate, I had not been paying attention to the news that day on Tuesday. So I didn't know that these crazy conspiracies about Haitian immigrants were out there in the ether. And I just heard this blurted out. And I'm sure it landed with me like it landed with millions of Americans. Here is Kamala Harris's brilliant performance and the meltdown that ensued from Donald Trump.
Actually do something really unusual. And I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
All right. First of all, as my producer Jeremy was aptly pointing out, her reactions, her facial expressions in that interaction are just gold. The way she owned him in a nonverbal fashion, which is something, by the way, that I didn't get to appreciate till later because I was kind of mostly just listening. I had it on my phone, but kind of in my pocket because I was out when it was live. And I didn't get to fully appreciate all those facial expressions the first time I heard it, but truly golden. The way she watched her brilliant, prompting him to unravel play out, and the shock but control that she exerted that whole time. Perfect. Perfect. But I wanted to, it's really, really sick. You know, we can all laugh at it. And then a couple days later, you know, we've got bomb threats in Springfield, Ohio, which, by the way, if you haven't heard John Legend, it's a long clip. I'm not going to play it today on the show, but John Legend is actually, his real name is John Stevens. He was born in Springfield, Ohio, and he did this Instagram clip telling about the evolution of Springfield, how it was kind of, you know, struggling town, and the Biden economy, the Biden manufacturing resurgence really brought a lot of jobs into Springfield that their population just could not fulfill. And so a lot of Haitian immigrants came in and grew this town of about 60,000 to about 75,000 and have filled a lot of these jobs that were not being otherwise filled. It's been obviously a period of transition, but also a period of great growth for Springfield. This is kind of the immigrant story in so many ways in different times and places in our country. This is a process that we go through, and it's not perfect or always easy in every way, but it's how we beautifully learn to live together and prosper together as Americans, fulfilling this American dream that's here for all of us. How sick that someone would try to pit the people in this experience against each other. I really want to just turn it over now to one of the Haitian community leaders in Springfield, Ohio, who has zero tolerance for what J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are doing. Here he is.
Very disturbed by these comments because J.D. Vance, instead of retracting and apologizing, he's doubling down and changing his story and saying, oh, constituents are calling my office saying that they saw someone eat a dog or cat or ate Garfield. I don't think so. He's lying. I asked the media to reach out to Senator Vance and ask him for the records of his legislative office. We want to see what constituents are actually saying these lies. Reba, who works in my office, we record the phone number and name of every person that calls our office. That's what a legislative office is supposed to do. And so we're going to ask J.D. Vance, show us the proof. That's right. Because there is no proof. You're a liar. You're lying about such good people. That's un-Christian. How dare you? How dare you go to church? You don't deserve to be a senator. That's right. And I'm asking Elon Musk. I know you were in space today, but honestly, you act like a space cadet. How dare you double down on these lies and spread these fallacies and spread these lies through Twitter or X or whatever you call it? You're not even American. You're South African. And the allegations are that it was a South African who was taking the goose and the geese, whatever, the duck. So, you know, these statements are completely false. And there's no way they could justify it or verify it. Thank you.
Good for him. Unchristian liar, you piece of crap. J.D. Vance, you piece of crap. I want to just, on the subject of J.D. Vance, I wasn't going to talk anymore about Laura Loomer, but I'm going to take 1 second to point out some sick thing that she tweeted this week. And it has to do with freaking J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. These are two men. For all of the hate that they spew out against immigrants, against people who are either not born in this country or not ethnically white, you've got two men who are married to immigrants. One to, what is she, Slovenian, Melania Trump, and the other one to an India woman, Usha Vance. This week, Donald Trump's, new best pal, maybe mistress, I don't really give a crap what she is. I could care less about his love life. Tweeted out that if Kamala Harris gets elected president, the White House is going to smell like curry because she's Indian. Okay, this is the level. This is the level that they're on. J.D. Vance, married to an Indian woman. Married to an Indian woman. Where is this woman's self-respect? Where is his respect for the wife and that he's married to? Obviously, he has none. He has no respect for anything real. He is a total sick, twisted fraud who will do anything for power. And by the way, anybody who's saying that it's really J.D. Vance really wants to become president, I agree with them. He is very much on this ticket, and the people behind Project 2025 are very much hoping and counting on Donald Trump not being able to fulfill his duties as president if they get elected. And guess who your president will be? Your president will be J.D. Vance. But this man is married to an Indian woman, and supporting a man who is flying around with a woman who makes racist claims about, the White House smelling like curry and how bad that would be because if Kamala Harris becomes president and moves in there. All I can say, any immigrant out there, any woman, have some self-respect. Have some self-respect. A reporter reached out to me a couple weeks ago and asked me what I would say to women who are still supporting Donald Trump. And that was basically my answer to her. Have some self-respect. We're going to talk a lot more about what Donald Trump and Project 2025 promised to do to women. But I want to share with you this excerpt from my book that this experience is a very visceral memory to me. I was in a small room when Donald Trump went to Little Haiti, a neighborhood in Miami, trying to court the Haitian vote. And here is the description of that experience. This is in September, 8 years ago today, September 2016. When Trump showed up, he sat on a stool and gave a short speech to a room of maybe 40 people. The visit was an unlikely overture to the Haitian community, which has traditionally been a dependable voting bloc for Democrats. I'm running to represent Haitian Americans, he said during brief remarks that attacked the Clintons for meddling in Haitian politics and their charity's heavily scrutinized disaster response in the wake of the country's catastrophic 2010 earthquake. Whether you vote for me or not, I really want to be your biggest champion, Trump said. When he wrapped up, the floor was opened up to the audience and a clear theme emerged. Many of these individuals felt keenly and personally betrayed by the Clinton Foundation. Stories of devastation poured out of these people, speaking mere feet from Trump and overcome with tears. I will never forget Trump's stoic response. There was literally nothing, not even commiserating words of blame or shame for the Clintons. Seeing this coldness up close and personal was a gut check, and it really bothered me. I had convinced myself this man cared deeply, and that's why he was running in the first place. I wanted to hug these people myself and left the venue doing some real mental gymnastics to choke it all up to some strategy on the part of Trump. Yes, I was that aloof to Trump's inability to empathize, especially with a diverse and struggling community like this. Sadly, a sizable 20% of Haitians would vote for Trump in 2016, possibly putting him over the top in Florida. But surprise, surprise, the empty promises of that evening would turn to outright betrayal when his administration ended the temporary protected status of Haitians displaced by the earthquake, accelerated their deportation, and called their homeland a shithole country. One story of betrayal. Today it's the Haitians. Tomorrow it will be you. Actually, last week I gave a story of a white supremacist named Nick Fuentes who was betrayed by Trump. So really, nobody is exempt from the betrayal. But just such a crystal clear example of how this man will use anyone, and how tragic with a community like the Haitians in a state like Florida. He only won Florida by 100,000 votes in 2016. You better believe that Haitian voting bloc that normally votes Democrat was a big part of helping him do that. I want to also give more airtime to people who are calling out these lies and calling out the abuse of real grief and real tragedy and real suffering. One of the lies spread by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance this week was that a immigrant killed an 11-year-old named Aiden Clark. Now, this 11-year-old was killed in a car accident. let me emphasize accident. It was not a murder. It was not an intentional malicious act. And the sick people at the top of the MAGA ticket are trying to exploit this man and his deceased son for political gain. Nathan Clark, his father, has no patience for it. Here's what he had to say.
Politicians, Bernie Moreno, Chip Roy, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump, they have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. This needs to stop now. They can vomit all the hate they want about illegal immigrants, the border crisis, and even untrue claims about fluffy pets being ravaged and eaten by community members. However, they are not allowed, nor have they ever been allowed to mention Aiden Clark from Springfield, Ohio. I will listen to them one more time to hear their apologies. To clear the air, my son, Aiden Clark, was not murdered. He was accidentally killed by an immigrant from Haiti. This tragedy is felt all over this community, the state, and even the nation. But don't spin this towards hate. In order to live like Aiden, you need to accept everyone, choose to shine, make the difference, lead the way, and be the inspiration. What many people in this community and state and nation are doing is the opposite of what you should be doing. Sure, we have our problems here in Springfield and in the U.S., but does Aiden Clark have anything to do with that? Did you know that an 11-year-old boy could be passionate about gardening, that he could haggle for a better price at a yard sale? Did you know that he researched different cultures to better appreciate and understand people that he interacted with? Did you know that one of the worst feelings in the world is to not be able to protect your child? Even worse, we can't even protect his memory when he's gone. Please stop the hate. I said to Aiden that I would try to make a difference in his honor. This is it. Live like Aiden. Thank you.
God bless that man. Let Aiden Clark's memory be a blessing, an example to us all. He sounds like a beautiful young man, not a wedge issue for some sick terrorist politicians. God bless him. Let us be like Aiden Clark. I want to, before we go to a break, just kind of turn to the flip side of this picture and why this terrorist playbook is getting to such desperate means and desperate ends, because they know how much they're losing. The Harris campaign continues to just be on fire. They raised $47 million in the 24 hours after the debate. That was the second highest amount that they had raised since she launched her campaign, and they just had that historic flow of money into her campaign coffers. Here's a crowd yesterday in North Carolina. Let me just set this up for you. This was the Greensboro Coliseum. It has the largest capacity of any arena in North Carolina. It's also the same size as the United Center where the DNC was held. So it holds 22,000 people. Here are the previous people who have been able to fill the Greensboro Coliseum: Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen, Prince, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Elton John, Paul McCartney. Now, yesterday, Vice President Kamala Harris filled this Coliseum. Here's a picture of the crowd. Every single seat is filled in that auditorium. Just imagine the jealousy of this movement that is going on, and how desperate they are to do anything to put us off track. You know, I'm thinking about, just right before we go to our sponsor, I'm thinking about how this week started off with these headlines about Donald Trump now retaking the lead in polls. Really? I think we really need to pay attention to, anytime we hear this, how this reporting, to the extent that it's accurate, I really don't know. Polls generally, I have very little faith in them. But understand that there are going to be all kinds of tactics, including tactics to try to make us discouraged and make us think that we are not going to win, to slow this momentum down. Don't listen to it for a second. We are on track to win. We just have to keep up the work. We're going to talk about about registration deadlines before the end of the show. We just have to put in the work. Don't let anything distract you. We are on top here. We just can't lose our footing. So quick break for a sponsor. So much more great content on the other side. Okay. All right. So I promised you I was going to talk about my reaction to the debate, which was not the initial reaction of a lot of other people, which is that she totally blew it out of the park. And it wasn't that I didn't think she did well. It was that I was kind of disgusted by Donald Trump. I think there's too much PTSD from all the damage this man has done. But I wanted to share right off the bat this clip of a crowd's reaction in a bar to one of the really kind of humorous and good lines from Kamala Harris. I wish kind of that I had been watching this with a crowd of people, because I think my initial response would have been a lot different. But here's that clip when she, just listen for it, struggles to find the proper word to call him. Here we go.
Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor.
Get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be Commander-in-Chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began.
All right. Sometimes we get our clips mixed up there, but the second one was the one I wanted you to hear just then with her just, saying the former president. She wanted to say a million other things, but the crowd was so there with her in that bar. On that first clip, I'll play it again if we have time in a minute. I really want to point out what she was getting to and how she really hammered him. And I know we cut it short to play the right clip there. But I was not in a crowd like that. I was just, as I mentioned, when I watched it live the first time, listening on my phone. And I was really struck by how many times Donald Trump interrupted, even though his mic was muted, how many times he wanted another word. And frankly, the moderators caved and gave it to him. Now, I know there's been a lot of praise for these moderators and how they did some fact checking that other moderators didn't do. And I agree that they did much better, okay? Much better than previous moderators have done in a debate with Donald Trump. But I wasn't losing my mind. He did speak way over what he was allotted and way more than he should have. Here are some statistics. Kamala Harris spoke for 37 minutes. She spoke 23 times. Donald Trump spoke for almost 42 minutes. That's almost 5 more minutes than her, and spoke 39 times. You're looking at a chart of who got the last word on issue after issue after issue on the economy, tariffs, abortion, migration, deportation, fracking, January 6, 2020, down the list. Every single issue, Donald Trump got the last word. And when I was listening to this debate the first time, I was just struck by how many kind of violations of the rules. And it almost harkened back to that first debate of 2020 for me, where he invoked the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by, and how that whole debate just felt like a violation of the entire country. And I remember feeling incredibly traumatized that night. But in the end, I think it was a very good thing for the election of Joe Biden, because we all felt just collectively disgusted by the way Donald Trump behaved and comported himself. And so that was my initial takeaway. He lies so much. He lies so much that I think when Kamala Harris did not respond to every single one of his lies, my initial reaction was, oh my God, like, what about that? What about that? But I gotta say, when I sat down and I watched it again, I was just struck by her absolute mastery. And you think of what it takes to get to a performance like that. And it really was masterful. She really, she didn't have time to answer every single one of his lies, but she did what she needed to do. She put him in his place. She baited him to destroy himself, even when all the reporting was out there that she was going to do this, and he knew it was coming, and he fell for it anyway, because he can't control himself. But she was in complete control from the moment she went over and shook his hand, and he was cowering and didn't want to shake her hand. She owned every moment of it. And I have so much respect for her as a woman who it's her lived experience. It's not just coming into that debate and maybe a few days of debate prep that got her to be able to perform that way. It's her whole life of performing and living up to this moment that enabled her to knock it out of the park the way she did. So that should really encourage us all as to what kind of president she will be. Everybody knows there's issues that I don't agree 100% on, particularly what's going on in the Middle East. And I saw a tweet today from a Palestinian supporter of Kamala Harris, who was encouraging people, and I will reiterate this, to not be fooled by someone like Jill Stein. For God's sakes, the last thing you want to do is siphon off votes for Kamala Harris. And one of the things that this Palestinian supporter said is, even if you are discouraged by her unwillingness to go further than Joe Biden in condemning what is clear violation of international law when it comes to Israel in the war in Gaza, even if you're dismayed by that, which I am and continue to be, they pointed out that she's walking a very thin line in this election, and not wanting to give more fodder to Trump and MAGA to paint her as anti-Israel, which is such a sick thing. Frankly, anybody who wants to end this war is pro-Israel. Netanyahu is anti-Israel. Hamas and Netanyahu are in coalition. They're both anti-Israel. And anybody else who is trying to find a humanitarian end to this sickness is pro-Israel, pro-Jewish people, pro-Muslim, pro-American, okay? But they pointed out how she's walking a very thin line to not be maligned by people who would try to paint her as anti-Israel leading up to the election. And with hope, this Palestinian supporter is hopeful that her actual policy actions when she becomes president will be more definitive, much more definitive than the Biden administration has been thus far. So just putting that out there. But like I said, immense respect for the ability of her to completely own that debate. And what is Fox News now trying to do in the days since that debate? They're trying to claim the opposite of what I just explained, how Donald Trump was given all that extra airtime, how he was really catered to. And I remember a very specific example of Kamala Harris saying, I want to answer something that was spoken wrong. And the debate moderators did not give her that chance when they had given Donald Trump that chance time and time again. But now, of course, Fox News and MAGA is trying to portray him as a victim, make every excuse in the world for his abysmal performance, and say that basically it was 1 against 3 and the whole thing was rigged against him. Just for some clarity on all this, I just want to play a clip from Fox News that very night, the immediate reaction of one of their commentators, Brit Hume, right after the debate. Here it is.
Unburdened by the past.
Unburdened by common sense. And here she was tonight. She was composed. She was prepared. She kept her cool. She saw advantages. She took them. She baited him successfully, which is the story of the debate, in my view. So she came out ahead in this, in my opinion, no doubt.
She came out ahead, no doubt. There's all of her skill being truthfully aired by Fox News before they had a chance to try to rewrite history like they're trying to this week. So now, of course, Donald Trump is chickening on a third presidential debate, second with Kamala Harris. He, of course, is terrified. I know the Harris campaign is saying the American people deserve another debate, and sure they do, but I'm sure we would all also be happy to leave it where it is because he's clearly the definitive loser. And any images that remain in our mind from that debate, I think are quite satisfactory to last us through the election. So either way, another debate, bring it on. I don't think he's going to retract on his chicken move right now, but either way, more than competent, brilliant woman to knock you down once again. So some really disgusting things have come out in response to the debate. One from this figure, John McEntee. If you watch Lights On, you know I've spoken about him before because I interacted with him in 2016. He's repulsive to me. He was repulsive in 2016 just for the fact of thinking that he was like an attractive guy that women should be like falling over. And I was totally not attracted to him at all. And I think he was kind of taken aback by my lack of interest in him. There's some really clear reporting on what a douchebag he is in John Carl's book, how he would size up women in the White House. This is somebody who started off literally carrying bags for Donald Trump. He was his body man, and he was elevated in the waning hours of Trump's administration to head the Office of Personnel. Very, very scary. He's now at the helm of a lot of initiatives at Project 2025. Somebody like him, nowhere's near fit for public service, but somebody we should be paying very close attention to. He came out this week, put out this disgusting video suggesting that Kamala Harris talking about women bleeding out in parking lots, is that not actually happening? Well, over 10,000 women responded to him and said, oh yeah, buddy, it sure as hell is. Here is one of them. Her name is Carmen Brewster. I can't even imagine what this woman has lived through, but she is a real life example of how Donald Trump will terrorize women in this country. Here's Carmen Brewster responding to John McEntee.
Can someone track down the women Kamala Harris says are bleeding out in park?
Present. I'm right here. I had a 19-day miscarriage in Idaho because of the abortion regulations. I was turned away not from one ER, but 2 ERs. Technically 3, because I walked into one and they said they wouldn't help me and I had to walk out. On day 8, I went to the 3rd official ER that I got checked into, and I never did receive a DNC. They gave me 1 dose of pain medicine in 19 days. I continued to suffer exponentially for the next 11 days. I blacked out in my hallway due to blood loss. I stopped eating, so my daughter stopped eating. So I had to eat with tears running down my face because it was actually painful to eat because I was in so much pain. Everything hurt. But my daughter needed to eat, so I was not about to make her not eat because I wasn't eating. I have to deal with these side effects for the rest of my life because of abortion laws. And I can't control other people's actions. I can only control what I can do. But yeah, women are bleeding out in parking lots. I actually have a pinned video of me saying they're gonna just let me bleed out here, if you want to refer to that. But I'm present. Hi, my name's Carmen. You can Google Carmen Brewster and find the ABC article, the Insider article. Yeah. You can find a whole bunch. BuzzFeed. But yeah, we exist.
Over 10,000 women responded to John McEntee's sick prompting there. Here's a guy in Oklahoma, 93 years old. His name's Bert Holmes. He's putting up billboards in Oklahoma that say, "Women, the Republican Party does not respect you." In Oklahoma, on my theme of have some self-respect, and this woman and millions like her who are affected by the terroristic policies of a man like Donald Trump. Here's Bert Holmes. I thought you'd enjoy him.
There are a couple new billboards here in Tulsa garnering a lot of mixed reaction. Here's what they say. We were curious who put up these billboards, so we did some digging. That's when we found out it was 93-year-old Bert Holmes. After we found him, we talked with him. Here's what he had to say.
So, we're here to talk about these billboards you've put up.
Yes.
Tell me the story behind those.
Well, I believe that the Republican Party does not treat women well. It's that simple.
Of all the messages, of all the things to say, why are you targeting women with the billboard message?
Because I think women can win the next big election in this country, but if they will get out and vote. And it will help me too, because women will make a difference in what's going on. And I do not like Mr. Trump, and I do not want him to be elected again. Yeah.
And this isn't the first time that you've put out an ad or, a billboard against somebody.
No. Yeah. I put out some billboards maybe 5 years ago, essentially the same message. Yeah.
And
so very brave man. He talks about some of the blowback, but he says most of it is positive. Most of it is positive. In a ruby red state like Oklahoma, people appreciate this. There's no reason. I mean, people in red states, these red states, every single one of them, not just people on the pro-democracy, liberal, progressive side, anybody who is voting for a Trump Vance type candidate is voting against their own interests. And when you drill it down to the issues, people understand that. Here's another really important thing to understand. I never want to lose sight of it. And somebody echoed something I say all the time. I wanted to amplify it here because I think we should do it every single time we turn the lights on Fridays. And that's that there's one reason and one reason only that Donald Trump is running for president. Here's 9/11 responder John Feel. He's the founder of the Feel Good Foundation, which does a lot to help first responders who have been injured in the line of duty. He's got it right.
John looks like he wants to say something.
I sit here and I watch Republicans and Democrats cherry pick what they want to say to make their points. Donald Trump's not running for president. He's running to stay out of jail. I don't care what anybody says. The man's not capable of a solid thought. And for him, I'm not going to say what I want to say. Listen, I had to shake his hand in 2019 when he saw my bill. I don't like him. I don't like him. I don't think he cares about the American people. Even in the debate or anything he's done at his rallies, he doesn't talk about the issues that Americans face.
Running for one reason, to stay out of jail. So you're going to make your vote help a billionaire stay out of jail for violating all kinds of people just like you. And if it's not you yet, it will be you. Couple highlights I want to talk about before I turn to a really neat video that I think you're going to really enjoy, that I got to share with some on-screen icons, on-screen heroes last weekend, raising money for Kamala Harris. But two things I wanted to point out from the debate. One was that clip we accidentally played earlier where Kamala Harris brilliantly spoke directly to the Polish population in Pennsylvania. She talked about how a dictator like Vladimir Putin would eat Donald Trump for lunch. Brilliant, brilliant line. And brought out how Donald Trump would hand Ukraine to this dictator for so-called peace, not peace at all. More like, complete violation, giving half of your house to the robber that comes in and violates your wife. That's kind of like what, Donald Trump's quote unquote peace plan with Vladimir Putin might be. Well, Who's next in this equation? Poland's next. Poland's next. And she spoke directly to those Polish voters. I thought that was brilliant, brilliant thing. Another thing that came out is Donald Trump said the one person, the one world leader who he could brag about backing him when she was talking about all the world leaders that know how dangerous and deranged he is. Who did he brag about having the support of? Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban. Hillary Clinton, we appreciate her bringing this to light. She tweeted this out after the debate. This piece by Vox writer Zach Beaucamp, it says, the one world leader Trump is praised by, Orban. And he writes this very good piece that I highly recommend in Vox about how democracy died in Hungary. I'm just going to read a little bit from it. It says that Hungary has become a very modern kind of authoritarian state. Over the course of his 8 years in power, Prime Minister Orban has chipped away at the foundations of Hungarian democracy. It has been replaced with an authoritarian regime that wields a cynical interpretation of the law as a weapon. The country is governed by rules like the border journalism permits. And he gives this whole very sad story about what's going on at the border there. Regulations that can seem on their face reasonable, but actually serve to undermine essential democratic freedoms. He writes, elections there are free in the sense that the vote counts aren't nakedly rigged, but they are unfair. The government controls the airwaves and media companies to such a degree that the opposition can't get a fair hearing. He says Hungary's civil society looks free and vibrant on paper, but a patchwork of nonsensical regulations makes it nearly impossible for pro-democracy organizations to do their work. An unending drumbeat of propaganda from both official state outlets and the private media empires of Orban allies. Hello, figures like Elon Musk and his alliance with Donald Trump, okay? Demonizes refugees and Muslims, warning of an existential threat to Hungarian society and culture. I mean, we're coming full circle today with the Haitian immigrant story. And Zach Beaucamp calls it soft fascism, a political system that aims to stamp out dissent and seize control of every major aspect of a country's political and social life. Okay, so this is the guy who praises Trump, who Trump praises. Do we need any other indication of what is ahead for us if we elect a man like this? On the subject of election, before I go to this fun video, is voter registration deadlines. I want to put this picture up on the screen. We are coming up on voter registration deadlines in early October in places like Arizona, Alaska, Indiana. This is other than early voting, which if you're already registered, you can early vote, and it's a great thing to do. It's started already, but these voter deadlines are so crucial. They are right around the corner. So please take a look. Go to vote.org or Vote Save America, as President Barack Obama suggested in this tweet. Find out the voter registration deadline in your state. Make sure you are still on the rolls. A lot of red state legislatures and just, any kind of MAGA Republicans in control have tried to kick people off the voter rolls. They're trying to suppress votes in places like North Carolina, where there is a real chance that it's going to turn blue, with crazy lawsuits like trying to make it harder for college students to vote with their state-approved IDs. Just filed a new lawsuit like that today. So listen, they're pulling out all the stops to try to rig this election, to try to derail what looks like is going to be a very obvious win for Kamala Harris. Don't let them do it. Make sure you and your friends are registered before those deadlines come up. Okay, so before we leave today, I'm going to leave you with a video. If you watch Lights On, you know about my story, so I'm not going to tell it again today. I'm going to kind of give you the end of the clip of this event that I was able to participate in just last weekend. Such a pleasure. It was called Heroes for Harris, and it was a fundraising Zoom call for the Harris campaign. We raised over $40,000, and I was, got to be honest, really starstruck. The people hosting my particular segment were Ron Perlman and Sean Astin. And other people on the call right before me was Alex Vindman, who we've had on this show. Right after me was Sergeant Gunnell, and then there were other other real life heroes like Justin Jones of the Tennessee Three, climate heroes, Native American activist heroes, and then real life heroes, in addition to people like Sean and Ron, like Mark Ruffalo on this call talking about the stakes. I got a chance to talk about my story and share it with a lot of people who had not heard it before. I want to share this with you because I know so many people, so many of you guys tell me every week, I wish more people knew about your story. I do too. I wish the national media talked about it. They should be sharing my story. It's a disservice not to share it with more people. And just because you have been such a beautiful receiver and audience and supporter of me, I wanted to share this beautiful moment of Sean Astin and Ron Perlman and Baratunde Thurston, who were hosting my segment in this call. And in the lead up, my very serious kind of warning about the stakes we face. Here you go. I have so many friends, and human rights is such a special and dear thing to me, who are in this country because they are seeking political asylum from other countries where they cannot freely express themselves. Can you imagine? And I know there are people on this very call who feel like they may have to seek political asylum from the United States in another country if Donald Trump is reelected. These are the stakes. This is what we are facing. It may be incoherent rants about jailing his enemies that Donald Trump is posting on his Untruth social account, but he has an apparatus of very dangerous, malicious, intellectually, smart. I hate even using that word, but they know what they're doing. These people that are propping him up in Project 2025. I know these people. I worked with them in 2016, and they are the worst because they have no moral guardrails, and they are willing to prop up a felon and a deranged person who seriously needs mental help. They're willing to put someone in power for their own ends and gains. So serious. So, very grateful to be here. So grateful to support an extraordinary woman who has dedicated her life to pursuing justice, both from the prosecution angle and from the rehabilitation angle of the people caught up in the justice system. I mean, she is just a resounding example of what this country needs. Each one of us, you better believe I have doubted it so many times whether I mattered. Okay. It was the first hurdle I had to overcome back in 2017. There was so much self-doubt and thinking that who am I? Who's going to care about me? Why do I matter? Each one of us matters so much. And we just think about this. Like, history is literally going to be written about each one of us and what we are doing in this moment. It's an extraordinary honor. It is so serious, but I am so grateful that we all have this mantle to carry.
Hear, hear. I mean, wow. So amazing to meet you and hear your story for the first time for me. My God, what a hero you are. And I'm going to stop. I just wanted to weigh in because I'm so moved by what you've done, what you've said, and what you're willing to stand for. So God bless you.
Don't go anywhere, Ron, because they're going to call on you for a second here. But, Jessica, I didn't say, I don't know if you were on at the very beginning when Baratunde invoked his mom. And I kind of was talking about something else, but I want to bring my mom down for a minute from heaven. She was 4'11" tall. Patty Duke was her name, famous actress. And she was a mighty warrioress. She was president of our union. And watching you talk just now, I felt like she was, looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All of the angels are looking at you.
Yeah. And I think I had to look up a word you said, just be humble about my vocab. You said pro se. You filed these suits pro se. And I'm like, hello, internet. What does this mean? It means you represented yourself. But I think it was the opposite spirit of what you described, of the selfish people who are willing to go along with wrong to get a little something for themselves. You did it to literally free other people. from these really obscene terms and conditions that they were bound by with this campaign. So real hero stuff. And it took a lot for me to say stuff instead of the other word.
The reverberations of that precedent are going to help people all across corporate America, all across all kinds of civil and criminal spaces. It just blows my mind how many types of disciplines and skill sets and qualities that are needing to be deployed. You almost want to thank that guy, because look what he's doing. He's giving all of us this opportunity to show what we're capable of. And so we're going to send him back down to Florida or to whatever place he has to go once he's sentenced. And we can figure out what our next step is. But you matter to me. You obviously matter to everyone.
Yes, if you think I was bawling in that clip, I was absolutely just tears falling down my eyes. So special. I mean, so special on so many levels. Part of what's been really hard about this for me is fighting this battle against silence and then fighting another layer of silence where it seems like I'm in the shadows and nobody knows what I've done to show how we can hold Trump accountable. So, when I have these moments of recognition, it's like, it brings on all the emotion. But that was so special. I love what Sean said at the end about we almost have to thank this guy because not really, but we almost do, because it's the opportunity to show just how much we're capable of and what we can do. And thank you for that opportunity to show our worth. We will gladly take it and demonstrate it. Just one quick note about Ron Perlman. One of my favorite, and oh my gosh, talking about Patty Duke watching me. I mean, that whole interaction just completely blew me away. But Ron Perlman is in one of my favorite movies of all time. It's called Drive, and it's about a getaway driver played by Ryan Gosling. And Ron Perlman plays one of the criminal henchmen. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, Drive. I saw it in a movie theater the first time. Highly recommend it. When I walked out of that movie theater, I literally felt like I had zero tolerance for any bullshit. I only cared about the things that mattered. There's just no time in life but to fight for what matters. And that's it. That's it. I can't even describe the feeling that I had when I walked out of that theater. But it's almost like that's the moment we're in right now. We can't have time for any of this. We can't have time. We have to see it for what it is and handle it and put it down for once and for all. So if you want to see the rest of that clip, and you can still donate, by the way, go to heroes4harris.com. It's the number 4, heroes4harris.com. You can watch the whole video, which is amazing, with so many different heroes. If you want to see where I start, it's about an hour and 9 minutes into it. And like I said, you can donate there to the host, which is Progressive Change Campaign Committee. Money will go directly to the Harris campaign. So, donate more than anything. Make sure you're registered, get your friends registered, turn out this vote. Don't let this moment pass on us. We are the ones, and we can carry this mantle. Let's do it. As always, you can support my ongoing legal battle, which I still need help for. That human rights lawsuit that started it all is still active in New York Supreme Court. You can do that at thejessicadenson.com/donate, thejessicadenson.com/donate. And if you're watching this, you're seeing me for the first time and you're like, who are you? What did you do? Since I did not talk about it specifically today, of course, it has to do with Trump's non-disclosure agreements. If you go to thejessicadenson.com, and this is for everybody, anytime, you can always see my links there. You're going to find my story there. You're going to find our victory. You're also going to find all the latest lights on. So thejessicadenson.com always has that information for you, and feel free to share it. Thank you, everybody, as always, so much for joining me today. I'm so grateful for you and love you so much. Let's bring down these domestic terrorists with our beautiful, radiant light. Let your light shine.